Welcome, listeners, to a night of mystery, suspense, sci-fi, and romance. This is the Two-Timer series Collective, a collection created by D.B. Watson, writer of the Two-Timer series, available on Amazon and Kindle Villa. In this program, you will hear a different tale once a week, read by me, A.J. Carter. If you enjoy any of these stories, please leave a like and a comment. If you'd like a story and want to read more, leave a comment and DB might grant your wish. They would love to hear from you. You can email them at fakesubmite@gmail.com or visit their website and see all their titles. Happy Scream-a-Ween. Anton finished dressing, checking his long black hair one last time in the mirror before unlocking his bedroom door and greeting his husband Troy, who stood pouting with his arms crossed. Anton smiled and kissed his brawny husband on the cheek. "Ready?" he said, trying to step around him to get to the stairs. Troy jerked out his arm, blocking Anton's escape. "Not so fast," Troy said. "Troy, Anton, you hurt me." "Troy, aren't you being a bit dramatic? You locked me out of our marital bed." "Oh, Troy, I had to. If I allowed you to watch me dress, you would have stopped me and I would be late for my club, again." "Yeah, I guess you're right." "Troy, you do this every time. It's one day every 2 weeks." "I know, you're right. I'm sorry." Screaming erupted down the stairs as they heard Paul yelling at Adam to give him back his pizza. Troy and Anton hurried down to defuse the fight, where they found their youngest, 5-year-old Adam, racing away, keeping out of reach of his angry big brother. Their third-born, Kyle, already dressed in his costume, was in the living room working on one of his Lego kits, advertised to be a plane, but Kyle was turning it into a medieval dungeon steampunk style. Their oldest, Damien, was out at the movies with Chris's oldest son, Dante, and a few other friends. Paul wanted to go with him, but he was too young for the movie Damien was seeing, so he had to stay home. He's been cranky most of the night. Troy grabbed Adam as the preschooler, who favored him, tried to dart past his parents, laughing, still holding the stolen pizza. Troy swooped him into his arms and out of reach of his short-tempered brother. Anton stopped Paul, whose hair color matched his own, from leaping to hit his baby brother. "Okay, that's enough, Paul," Anton said in a stern voice. "There's plenty of pizza for all of you." "He's always taking my stuff," Paul yelled. "Hey," snapped Troy. "Watch your tone." "You always take his side," Paul grumbled. "Paul, no we don't," Anton cooed. "Come on with me and I'll give you something special." He took his second-born's hand, wearing a pirate costume, and walked him into the kitchen. Troy focused his attention on Adam, dressed as a police officer, who only smiled back. "Why do you test your brother?" he asked, not expecting a response. Adam burst out laughing as he held out the slice to his father, not wanting it. Troy took the food and placed Adam down. "Kyle, can you watch Adam?" he called. "Okay, come on, Adam," he called from the living room, dressed as a cyborg. Adam took off in the direction of his brother's voice. Troy was about to go relieve Anton when the doorbell rang. He answered and saw Chris Owens with his 2 girls, Yumi and Jessie, dressed as fairies, and 2 sons, Ash and Chase, dressed as red and green Power Rangers, and Piper Hammett, holding a case of beer and 2 more pizzas. Both men were Troy's childhood friends. "Ready for this?" asked Chris, watching his kids dart into the house and scatter. "Come on in." Troy grabbed the case of beer from Piper just as Anton walked in with Paul holding a can of soda. "I thought no soda until this weekend," Troy asked. Anton patted Paul's head. "This is a special case, but he only gets 1. Chris, Piper, welcome." "You going to be late, Anton?" Piper said. "Tell me about it," Anton said, giving Troy a side glance. "Go on and have a fun time. Come back on the wagon." Troy kissed his husband goodbye as he took over. "I should say goodbye to the boys. If Adam sees you leaving, he's going to want to go with you." Anton was out the door and rushing to his car. Anton's mystery group took turns holding their club at each member's home, giving the host the choice of entertainment. This time it was Peter Chee's turn. His husband was a deputy to Sheriff Owen. When Anton arrived, Cindy, Pepper, and Shannon were already there, helping Peter set up a buffet with random finger foods. A punch bowl filled with Pepper's famous murder punch, and the board game Clue was open and ready. Anton removed his coat and hung it in the closet. "Sorry for being late." "Never mind, you're here and we just got finished," Peter said. "I'll help clean up," Anton said, walking into the dining room where Cindy was scooping out some punch for Anton. "Here, you gotta try this. Pepper outdid herself," Cindy said. "I didn't make it this time. Peter did," Pepper corrected. Anton took a long swallow and started to feel more relaxed. "Amazing," he said, holding out his cup for more. "I just followed Pepper's recipe," Peter retorted. "Well, she's rubbing off on you. Now, what do you have planned for us?" Anton said, drinking half of his second cup. "Well, I figure we eat while we talk about the latest mystery novels out," Peter said. "Oh, I have a few good ones," Cindy said, passing out plates. "So do I," Shannon spoke up. "It's called Witch of Time, and it has a Wiccan doing detective work with spells." "Oh, I want to read that one," Anton said. "Is it at the local bookstore?" "It is. I also already bought a copy for Molly, and she's reading it now." "How about we read it for the next meetup?" suggested Pepper. "Done," said Shannon. "We can grab our copies tomorrow when we have breakfast." The evening stretched on while they shared more book titles when a timer went off. "Okay, it's time for Murder at the Door," Peter announced. They all filed out with drinks and food in hand to the living room. The group of 2 men and 3 women sat fixed on the new episode, especially Anton. When it ended, they started the board game. Anton became bored and wandered out of the room to use the bathroom. While washing his hands, he glanced out the window that had a view of Peter's neighbor's yard. He saw a dog tied up in the yard. The night was frigid, and Anton hoped they'd bring the animal in to get warm. He returned to the game, finding everyone talking about the show. Shannon spotted Anton and smiled. "We were waiting for you. It's your turn." Anton approached, looking at the board game, not wanting to play. "The killer is Lady Scarlet. She did it in the game room with the dagger." Peter checked, shocked to see Anton was correct. "How did you figure it out so fast?" "I mean, he's bored," Shannon said, placing her pencil down. "Anton, we just started," said Cindy. "We can play another game," suggested Pepper. "We could, but we can also do something else," Anton alluded. "Like what?" asked Shannon. "Well, we can do a little detective work ourselves." "Oh no, not again," said Shannon. "What do you mean, not again?" asked Peter. "Anton wants us to snoop on your neighbors," Cindy said. "Why on earth would we do that?" Peter asked. "Who's your neighbor with the dog?" Anton asked. "Mr. Dalglish? He's a retired widower. Does he always leave his dog out this late?" "It's only 9 o'clock. He might have let her out to do her business." "Don't say any more, Peter. Anton is fishing," Shannon said. "I wasn't." "Hey, I have an idea," Cindy said, filling her cup with more murder punch. Everyone waited while Cindy drained her cup, tasting the sweet nectar on her tongue while it slid down her throat. She closed her eyes, feeling the alcohol take over. When she opened them again, she noticed everyone staring at her. "What's everyone staring at?" Cindy asked. "You," Anton answered. "You said you had an idea," Pepper said. Cindy blinked several times, trying to remember what her idea was. Then it came to her. "All right," she said excitedly. "Let's do a seance." Everyone looked at Shannon, who was the local Wiccan. She thought over the suggestion. "Why not, if it would keep Anton from spying on the neighbors?" "I'm game," Anton agreed, not showing his annoyance with Shannon's comment. "I have the perfect room," Peter said, leading them upstairs to his guest bedroom. He opened the door, and to their surprise, except for Shannon, he decorated it into a seance room. Shawls hung vicariously along the wall and furniture. The colors red and gold popped from the well-placed light fixtures. The room was small, but Peter managed to make it into a cozy, welcoming environment. In the middle of the room was a round wooden table with a pentagram burned into the surface, surrounded by 5 straight-back chairs with cushioned seats. On the table was a crystal ball fashioned on a cast-iron bat throne, small candles scattered around the table, and above hung a cast-iron candelabra. Everyone was in awe as they filed into the room. "Peter, this is beautiful," Pepper said. "I agree," Cindy said, holding a full cup of murder punch. "I've been over here several times and never seen this room. You told me it was a storage room," Anton interrogated. "It was at first," Peter confessed. Shannon came to his aid. "Molly informed me Peter was a practicing Wiccan, so I had to bring him into my fold. He was under my guidance, so he had to keep his lessons a secret. Michael surprised Peter with this room on his birthday. I wanted to wait until tonight to show off the room in the spirit of All Hallows Eve," Peter said. "Good enough for me," said Cindy, finishing off her drink and sitting down. "Let's bring on the spirits." Everyone laughed while they sat down, with Shannon taking the lead seat. Peter, with Anton's help, lit the small candles while Pepper dimmed the lights. Shannon touched the crystal ball to find its energy point when a vision hit her. She jerked her hand away and looked at Anton. "Is something wrong?" Anton asked. "Anton," Shannon said in gasps. "Did you say you saw the neighbor's dog outside?" "Why, yes, I did." Shannon stared at Anton with questioning eyes. Everyone looked at Anton for answers. He had none. "Why is everyone looking at me?" "Anton, show me," Shannon demanded, standing. Show you what?" "The dog! Damn it, the dog!" Their footsteps thundered through the hallway to Peter's bathroom. All enter with Anton and Shannon in the front looking out the window. "There, see? The dog," Anton stated. Shannon moved out of the way for Peter to see. "Peter, is that your neighbor's dog?" Peter saw a Doberman standing in the yard. "No, Mr. Dogliash owns a Maltese." Anton locked eyes with Shannon. "You saw something." Shannon raced after Anton, followed by the others. "Anton," she called, trying not to shout. Anton ignored her as he continued to Mr. Dagliash's house. Shannon managed to get in front of Anton just as he finished climbing the wooden steps to the old but well-kept Victorian home and was about to ring the bell. "Anton, wait," Shannon said sternly, but kept her voice down. "Why? Clearly something's going on in there." "We don't know that." "Shannon's right," Peter said, catching his breath after the brisk stride from his house. He'd forgotten Anton was a runner and one hell of a speed walker. There could be a million reasons why there was a different dog in Mr. Dagliash's yard. "Okay, give me one." "Well," he looked to Shannon and the others for help. "He could be watching someone else's dog," said Pepper. "There," said Shannon to Anton. Anton looked at Peter, who looked in doubt. "Peter, does Mr. Dagliash's dog sit?" Peter wanted to say yes to stop Anton in his pursuit, but couldn't lie. "He's 78 years old and only cares for his Precious." "Precious?" asked Pepper. "Like the Lord of the Rings?" "That's what he calls her." Anton looked at Shannon triumphantly. Shannon tried to think of another reason, but drew a blank and knew deep down there was something wrong. "Fine, but let's call the sheriff and have one of them check on him." "It could be too late," Anton said. "We're not sure about that," Shannon said. "Well, Chris is out with Troy and the kids trick-or-treating." "Michael is working tonight," Peter said. "Let's call him." "Good idea," Shannon said, giving Anton the same smug expression. Anton wasn't backing down. "Let's put it to a vote." "Fine." Shannon knew she would win with Peter and Piper on her side. "Oh, say we call Michael and wait for him," she specifies. "Say aye." Pepper said aye and Shannon said aye, but Peter was quiet. Shannon turned to him, shocked. "Peter, no." "I'm sorry, but Mr. Dagliash was always nice to me and Michael and sold me his departed wife's recipes in exchange for home-cooked meals. I'm worried about him." "Yes, that's a tie," Anton said. "Then Cindy is the deciding vote." "Cindy?" Shannon called. When they turned, Cindy was nowhere in sight. "Where did she go?" asked Peter. "She was right behind me," Pepper said. Suddenly the door opened. There stood Cindy, swaying from her drunken state, looking victorious. "Cindy, what are you doing?" asked Shannon. I'm not sure, but let's do this before I sober up. Anton went to her, allowing her to lean on him. How did you get in? The side window was wide open. The window was open? Peter said. At this time of year? Oh, Shannon, we have to go in. Fine, but I want you to go call Michael. And tell him what? We're entering someone's house without permission? Just tell him you saw a strange dog tied up in his yard, Pepper suggested. Okay, should I take Cindy with me? Not going to happen, said Pepper. Why not? Because she and Anton are already gone. Shannon turned and wanted to scream. Come on, Pepper, let's go find them. Peter took off running back to his house as Pepper and Shannon entered. Anton and Cindy headed upstairs while Pepper and Shannon moved around downstairs. What are we looking for? Asked Cindy. Who else? Mr. Dalglish. Oh, yeah, I forgot. What does he look like? Just look for an old man. They looked up and down the hallway, not sure which way to go. Maybe we should split up. That's a bad idea. Why? Well, for one, you're drunk, you could fall and hit your head. And two, what if there is someone other than Dalglish here? Give me a second. Cindy opened a door, finding a bathroom. She splashed icy water on her face, feeling more refreshed. There, that's much better. She looked around in the cabinet under the sink and found a flashlight, giving it to Anton. Here, use this on him or her, and make sure you hit them hard. You think someone's here? Better safe than sorry. What about your weapon? I'll be fine. Remember, I'm a brown belt in judo. Cindy took off before Anton could object. He watched her move down the hallway without any problem, turning a corner. He shrugged his shoulders and went in the opposite direction. Anton knocked on doors before opening them, calling for Mr. Dalglish. The rooms were empty and dark, but the light from the hallway helped in seeing inside. Downstairs, Shannon and Pepper stayed together while they moved through the living room to a drawing room back to the hall, heading for the kitchen. The barking was louder, and when they entered, they saw Mr. Dalglish's dog at the open back door, looking through the screen door. They moved to her and saw the reason the Doberman was barking. It was because of Precious. But whose dog is that? Asked Pepper. It's mine, said a male's voice behind them. Pepper and Shannon turned to see a figure wearing a gas mask and holding a long handle scraper. Both screamed before Pepper reached for anything she could and started throwing things at the stranger. The figure did his best to dodge the flying items when one of them, a cast iron skillet, shot past him and hit an open light switch, causing a surge and knocking all the lights out. Stop! Shannon! Mom! It's me! Pepper stopped throwing when they recognized the voice. The male removed his mask. Dante? Shannon and Pepper yelled just as Chris and Michael came in. Freeze! Police! Troy, Chris, and Piper managed to guide the kids to each house to receive their treats without any hiccups. The night air grew chilly. Piper held Adam's full pumpkin basket while Troy checked Adam, whose hands were cold and looked tuckered out. Troy cupped his youngest son's hands and blew his warm breath against his cold fingers before removing a pair of mittens from his coat pocket and slipping them on him. He picked him up and Adam nestled his head on his father's shoulder, falling asleep. Chris checked his watch and saw it was already 9 p.m. We should call it, Troy. It's getting late and we still have to get to Michael's place. Agree. Let's go, guys and gals. Time to go. The kids ran over, showing off all the candy they got when Chris received a call. Hello? Hey, Chris, are you still with the kids? Yeah, what's up? Peter just called me about our neighbor, Mr. Dalglish, and a strange dog in his yard. I'm busy with some prankster at the high school. We're headed over there now. I'll check it out. Thanks, I'll be there as soon as I can. Chris hung up, smiling at the bounty of sweets his kids were showing him. Is it work? Because I and Troy can manage the kids, said Piper. Peter called Mike about their neighbor. Since we're headed that way, I told him I'll check on him. Let's load up the kids and go, Troy said, feeling the hairs on the back of his neck rise. When they reached Michael's place, Peter answered the door on the first knock. Shocked to see Troy, Chris, Piper, and 7 children, all but one screaming trick-or-treat on his porch. What are you all doing here? Peter asked nervously, grabbing a candy bowl from a table by his door. Remember we said we're stopping by with the kids? Chris asked, looking for his wife Pepper, Cindy, Shannon, and Anton. Where is everyone? Troy asked, holding Adam. Everyone? Peter questioned nervously, giving extra candy to the kids. No, Troy said, dropping his head back, knowing where his husband was. They're next door, aren't they? Chris asked Peter, knowing the answer. Chris, called Michael, running up. I got someone to relieve me. Peter, what's going on? Peter could only shrug his shoulders. Troy, you and Piper stay here with the kids, and Peter. We'll get them. Thanks, Chris, Troy said. Get who? Michael asked. Who else? Mystery Inc., Troy called. Michael looked at his guilty husband. We'll talk later, Peter, called Michael. Okay, honey, he smiled. Be careful, he called back. When the flashlight landed on them, Chris and Michael let out a sigh. Damn it, Dante! What are you doing here just like that? Asked Chris. Where's Damien? Right here, sir, Damien said, coming from the basement. What the hell are you two doing here? Before they could speak, Chris heard a bark out back. He took a look and saw his dog. He turned to his son. What's Trigger doing here? He asked his son. Taking him for a walk? He said as a question when a scream came from upstairs. Everyone stay put, Chris ordered while he and Michael raced upstairs. Cindy wandered about, opening doors when she heard scratching. She looked around and saw a large mouse race past her feet. She shrugged her shoulders, ignoring it when she walked face first into a spider web. She let out a scream when the web got into her mouth. The scream from Cindy startled Anton, who tried to get to her, but the house lights went out, causing him to enter the wrong room and trip on a loose rug, landing not on the floor but something else. He rolled onto his back, sat up, and turned on his flashlight, shining it at the object he fell on. The light shined on a pale face with open eyes that Anton recognized as Old Man Daglish. Anton gasped, sitting up when the body beside him sat up as well. They stared at each other before releasing a scream. The door opened as they stopped screaming at each other, and they both saw figures shining a flashlight at them, causing them to scream again. The lights turned on, and there, standing at the door, were Sheriff Chris Owens and Detective Michael Chi. Behind them was Cindy, waving at Anton. The EMTs came and tended to Mr. Daglish's sprained ankle. Peter and Michael volunteered to take care of Precious while he recovers. Michael returned to work. The mystery group offered to clean Mr. Daglish's house and do repairs. Damien and Dante's punishment for breaking into Mr. Daglish's house using Trigger to distract Precious so they could smoke pot in his basement was to do yard work for Mr. Daglish and shovel his steps when it snows for free until further notice. Piper loaded his intoxicated wife, Cindy, into his truck and gave Shannon a ride home. Troy and Anton loaded their family in silence and thanked Chris for his help. Chris and Pepper waved goodbye before driving home with their 4 trick-or-treaters, and oldest Dante waved goodbye to Damien before climbing into his father's truck. Damien returned the wave. Chris and Pepper waved goodbye before driving home. Once home, Anton and Damien sat at the kitchen table while Troy put Adam and Paul to bed. He returned to the kitchen, sitting and staring at them. Troy, I like to say in my defense, I was only being a concerned neighbor, Anton said. Damien sat up and looked at his father. Me too. I wouldn't speak if I were you, Troy said to his oldest son. You're grounded for 2 months. 2 months? Come on, Dad. It was only 3 months and no dirt bike. You will come home and do homework and your chores. Damien wanted to protest when Troy stopped him. Say another word and it will be 6 months. Damien sat back defeated. Go to your room and don't slam your door. You'll wake Adam. Damien laughed. Troy turned his full attention onto Anton. Now, what should I do with you, Mr. Fay? Troy, really? I'm your husband, not a child. That's true. Are you going to stop me from going to my group? Anton asked, worried he might. I would never stop you from doing something that makes you happy. Oh, good. Anton sighed his relief. I could have sworn. From now on, your groups will be supervised. What? I, Chris, Piper, and Michael will take turns in chaperoning your club. Now see here, until we are sure you will not go and investigate our neighbors. Troy, Anton, Chris wanted to charge all of you with trespassing, including his wife. Fine. As for your punishment...
My punishment?
Yes, but we're going to have to wait until Damien's asleep.
Why wait? Oh, pumpkin patch?
Pumpkin patch. The end.
Thank you for listening. This is a short story by D.B. Watson and read by me, A.J. Carter. You can find the Thriller series at Amazon.com under DB Watson /